This is the MagnoVex, which is a device that monitors the magnetic field in environment and alerts you if it detects anomalies in that field, be they an increase in magnetic strength or a change in the polarity.
It is, and that temperature. What the heck is all three temperatures at once? Yeah.
Okay, that's amazing. I think they're really good.
And I'm seeing the temperatures going up behind me.
Yeah, the temperature's going up, so there's no reason for any of that to be going on.
Since 2014, we've been using data loggers to record environmental conditions, and in the last 2 years, we've expanded that to also include the measurement and recording of magnetic fields. We then compare this data with our log of unexplained events which occurred during the investigations and determined there were repeating patterns of change inside the magnetic field. Sometimes the strength of this field would increase, and on some occasion the polarity of the field would shift. Taking that data, we built a standalone device which can monitor the ambient magnetic field and calibrate itself to what is normal. Then when it determines there's a change, it provides an alert. This real-time approach has been used in investigations this year and is proving very successful in detecting these changes at the same time as unexplained events.
Can you see those boxes on the floor?
One, two, three.
Make them change colour.
Door banged. One. Three. MagnoVex.
So before we have a demo, I want to very quickly touch on the difference between EMF and magnetic fields. Everyone should be fairly familiar with a K2 meter. It's used to detect electromagnetic fields. So turn it on. There's a couple of little there's a little bit of EMF around my desk. And if I bring this, which is a magnet, close to the device, we've still got that same amount of background EMF unless I move the magnet, because electromagnetism is a magnetic field which is moving. So I move this magnet, it generates EMF. But as soon as I stop moving this magnet, it's not generating EMF and therefore is not being picked up by the K2. So if there was anything generating a magnetic field which wasn't moving anywhere, the K2 meter wouldn't pick it up until it did, very briefly. And who hasn't seen these little chirps before? Investigations. It's a little chirp. Gone. Now let's have a look at the MagnoVex. So, lights out. So when you turn on the MagnoVex, first thing it does is it ticks down, flashes between red and blue. And that's giving you a bit of time to turn it on and plonk it down, because this device has to be in a fixed position to use it. The Earth's magnetic field fluctuates throughout the entire environment, and therefore moving it can mean that the calibration is thrown off. Let's run through how calibration works. So after the countdown timer, which gives you the time to set it down in a position that you're going to leave it for a little while, you see those flashes. That at that point is detecting a baseline of the magnetic field strength. So now it's got a rough baseline. And what it's now going to do for the next 5 minutes is record any changes to that baseline. So you might see a few little hits early on from using this. So if you're going to put it on for an entire session, first 5 minutes, you might see a few more hits where it's just detecting these odd little spikes that you'll get naturally. So, but after that point, after the first few minutes, it's then going to ignore those natural spikes. You're not going to see that one again because it's ignoring that level of magnetic change. And that's the important bit. The data showed us that magnetic fields do vary naturally, but occasionally they spike, and that's the bit we're interested in. So we don't want it to keep on going off every time it sees a variation. So let's bring the magnet back in again, and as we bring the magnet close, it's detected a north polarity magnetic field from where I've placed the magnet. And as I'm in the calibration phase, it's not now detecting the magnet until I bring it a little bit closer. Because I've increased the strength of the field, it's going to detect it again. But now if I'm back here, it doesn't detect it at all, because it's now ignoring that amount of background magnetism. Likewise, if I change the polarity of the field, you'll now see it's detected a south polarity magnetic field. I can put it right on top, and it's now calibrated to ignore magnetic fields that are that strong. So in reality, this thing is never going to go off again until after calibration. There we go, can't get it go off now because it's ignoring that field. And all you've got to do to recalibrate, switch it off and on, and it's going to go through that process again. Everything's baseline back to how it was, and that means you can move it around, and it's detecting the field again. Now, one thing I've noticed when investigating is that there are good places to put these and bad places to put these. If you place it down and then you're just getting very constant hits on one polarity or the other polarity, then I would say that there is something generating a fairly strong magnetic field, which this is just not going to detect anything apart from that. So if it's going off a lot, then I would move it to a spot which is a little bit quieter. Some practical elements of it. So very simple operation. You literally put it down somewhere stable, turn it on, and it does all the work for you. It takes a 9-volt battery, and it's in a quick release caddy. You just prise that out, and you can put in a 9-volt battery, and put the case back in, and just pop it closed. You're good to go. So that is the MagnoVex, a way of monitoring magnetic fields, which I don't think is very easily accessible at the moment, and I think quite an interesting area of study for people who want to get more into the physics of the paranormal. They're available on sciretech.co.uk. There's a link in the description. Please consider subscribing to this channel, because this is the first place I'll be posting any new news or demonstrations of equipment before it goes out to the public. So you'll be the first if you jump on the channel. Hope you have lots of active investigations, and thank you for watching.